I have to do it. This house will come to order. Good afternoon, members of the House, and thank you for joining us today. Today, there is an important motion before the House, but let me set the scene. Global spending on education technology in the classroom will surpass $19 billion, and that's according to Fortune magazine. At that cost, technology's importance in education is increasing, and so are expectations for measurable returns. While many sing the praises of IT in the classroom, recent evidence suggests that tech's impact in the classroom is limited. Put more starkly, the OECD finds that access to ICT does little to bridge the gap between the advantaged and the disadvantaged. Therefore, the motion before the House, this House believes education technology in the classroom is a waste of time and money. First, let me introduce our speakers for the motion. To my right, I have Anthony Jenkins, former CEO of Barclays and a board member of Blockchain. Something really awful must have happened for you to be sitting on this side of the House. And his colleague, James Centinera, the CEO and founder of Tula in the Philippines. Their opposition, speaking against the motion, we have Dr. Zaki Khoury from Microsoft and Munira Rajkotwala, a student and an advocate of blended learning. Before we begin, let me just outline the format. Each side will speak. We will start with the speaker for the motion. There will be an opportunity for the side against to rebut, and then the second speakers will come on. We will then go into a Q&A. And I must warn you, if I do not hear a question, I will be bringing down the gavel, as they say. So I expect to hear a question. Before we begin, we have the opportunity to vote. Now, just for everybody's benefit, you should have voting pads in front of you. A is if you support the motion, so if you're for the motion. B is if you're against the motion. And C is if you're undecided. You may vote now, and you will have 10 seconds. Aha. So, only 22% are for the motion, 58% are against the motion, and 20% of you are undecided. Just to remind you, the winning team is the team that's able to swing the most number of votes. And that's effectively how we will decide whether a motion has been carried or defeated. I believe we're now in a position to begin. So may I request the side speaking for the motion, the first speaker, James, you may take the stage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we are unbelievably fortunate. We are alive during a truly remarkable time. The rapid advancement of technology is amazing. It has transformed all of our lives. Think about it. Humans have been on the planet for millennia, yet for 99.9% of human history, we've only been able to travel by foot or by animal. Yet, this weekend, we've flown in from all across the world, every continent, maybe except Antarctica. But who knows? Maybe someone here is from Antarctica. It's possible. It's possible. 100 years ago, that would have been crazy. It would have been considered magical. I'm an engineer. I travel on planes all the time. I still think it's a bit magical that we can just fly across the skies. I'm a millennial, and I grew up around technology. I use it all the time. I use it to create this speech. I'm using it right now. It can clearly be beneficial. But this debate is not about whether technology can be beneficial. This debate is about whether investing in technology right now is the right thing to do with our finite education budgets. I heard Arnie Duncan, the former Secretary of Education in the US, talk yesterday. He raised issues such as teacher training and recruitment, fundamental basic issues that we're not allocating resources towards. Can we afford to invest in education technology in the classroom over other basic issues like this that are neglected today? 22% of you are thoughtful people. You know the answer is yes. Unfortunately, it's really wasteful right now. But 58% of you are like me. We are defensive tech lovers, technology-loving millennials, or millennials at heart, and instinctively and defensively, a little person in your head shouted, "No, I love technology. I think it's great. Surely it can't be wasteful." That said, I know you will come to realize this was an emotional reaction. Because you're all intelligent and pragmatic people, you know that education technology in the classroom is a nice dream, but right now it is wasteful. My argument today revolves around 2 points, very simple. Firstly, technology is only beneficial when certain other essentials are in place. Let me deviate for a second from education jargon to explain a few simple examples. Imagine you have 2 problems at home. Your toilet is broken, and so is your TV. But right now, you only have enough money to fix one. Raise your hand if you would spend on the TV first. Of course, no one. That's crazy. How about this? Raise your hand if you would buy a MacBook Pro for a child that can't even read, can't even type. A 1-year-old. Who would buy a MacBook Pro for a 1-year-old? One crazy person, 2, 3. Very few, excellent. And let's raise the stakes a bit. Let's imagine you're the president or prime minister of your home country. You just landed a windfall extra $1 billion. Would you invest in developing spaceships that can reach Mars? Or would you spend on more needed social services, teacher training, healthcare, other programs for your people? Certain things take higher priority over technology, and they must be in place, or else it is wasteful. Secondly, investing in technology can also be wasteful when misused or when it distracts us. I want you to all imagine you're at home with your curious 5-year-old daughter, hypothetical or real. She is all of a sudden curious about where babies come from. That's normal for children. Now raise your hand if you would give your curious 6-year-old child an iPad with unfiltered, unprotected access to the internet to satisfy her curiosity. No one. Of course not. Irresponsible. How about this? I want you to imagine you're at home and you're about to start dinner with your kids. Again, hypothetical or real. But when you get to the dinner table, everyone is on their smartphones looking down. Are you happy that you bought them those smartphones and allowed them to bring them to the dinner table? I don't think so. Technology misuse is a problem, and it obviously belongs in certain places and not in others. These issues translate exactly into the classrooms of today. Let's talk about the typical classroom of today. We have all been educated in great schools, such as GEMS, GEMS Wellington, where my opponent is at the moment. These are amazing schools. We are very fortunate. We are very rare. We are not the 1%. We are probably the 0.01%. The typical classroom is sadly pretty dim, literally and figuratively. Public funds are the main source of funding in most countries in the world still. It's shockingly low. You can go look at UNESCO's Institute for Statistics yourself and see. India, $243 per child per year. The Philippines, $176 per child per year. Ethiopia, $91 per child per year. Bangladesh, $92 per child per year. This is terrible. This low investment in schools means classrooms are far behind your typical home, personal office, or even fast food restaurant. They are behind in both basic creature comforts and personnel. Most teachers across the world are sadly some of the lowest paid professionals in the entire world. They are paid sometimes below the average wage of the country. The state of facilities is shocking in classrooms. The typical classroom is hot, it's crammed, they don't have electricity,
James, you have 30 seconds.
potable water, access to toilets, lots of issues. The curriculum is far behind. We need to advance our curriculum, introduce skills, character, attitude, all these interesting things we've been talking about, yet we're still far behind. These things need priority. And if we continue to misuse technology, if we allow classrooms to become places where kids are playing Candy Crush, where teachers are on Facebook, where they're being distracted, where kids are just watching videos, maybe it's not the right place. So let me conclude. One day, education technology, it will have its time. The potential benefit is clear. But this debate is about whether we can redirect some of the $100 or $200 of limited annual education budget for each student towards EdTech. I'm sure you'll agree that investing right now, before classrooms and school systems are ready, is sadly wasteful. Thank you.
Thank you, James. May I now call upon Dr. Zakikuri from Microsoft to present the motion against.
Mr. Speaker, honorables. Well, believe it or not, I'm the regional director of Microsoft and still can use paper, can read, and also can code and use some devices. But let's put this on the side. Let's go straight to the point. My honorable colleague tried really to deviate the debate and camouflage the real motion here. The real motion is about a report that has been produced by OECD in 2015 based on PISA reports or results that are coming from 2012. That is really the foundation of this motion. Well, we are talking about, in this report, about how students' access to and use of ICT devices has evolved in recent years. But in the same time, the report is arguing that still, this is not really performing well in terms of the results of PISA that came in 2012. And let me tell you this, there is a lot of arguments about the divide, the digital divide. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not about the digital divide. This is about digital dividends. I'm borrowing here from the economy the term dividends because it's fundamental in this type of technology revolution that my colleague already has been mentioning, that we really need to leverage the assets that we have, and not only that, but also to take the opportunities to the maximum. During the first and the second industrial revolution, we were using horses. No one can imagine that we will leave the horses and take the cars. But we did. We even pushed the bar more and more and try really to think loudly about driverless car right now. There is no stop for innovation. We really need to adapt to innovation. And this is how, it's really the nature of our human being. So with this type of changes that are around us, can you believe that we can really come to a conclusion on emotion that is using the same assessment tools that has been already been built on some methods of teaching and learning that has been created 100 years ago or decades? That's exactly what it is in front of us right now. And this is something that we need really to cope with in a way to be addressed, in a way that needs to change how we are assessing performance and outcome. And instead of really choosing between education and technology, No, it is education and technology in the same time. It's not or. That's the real debate that we are facing right now. So what is the reality? How we are really, instead of looking at the now, we can look at the future. We can leverage the technology in our best and the best of our students. With more than half of the children entering to the school now, they will go into jobs that we never seen before. We don't even understand what type of jobs or even the titles that they will face in a generation time. Remember, we are talking about artificial intelligence. We are talking about not only robotics in terms of automation, we are talking about a level of computing that we never saw before. Should we left them behind? Or should we really take them in order really to be adapted to such kind of innovation? Let them be part of this innovation in a way. Let them be familiar with the technology as if this is really their daily life. They need to feel comfortable with it. Well, I'm here, would like really to highlight two fundamentals. One is that advanced skills, digital skills, are a requirement right now. And not only that, but also adaptability to become a core skill in terms of how to deal with the technology and how to really embed it in the way of learning. That's also another skill that we really need to take it. I'm not arguing today about changing the fundamentals. And the fundamentals is what I proved to you. I'm coming with paper debating technology because I can read, I can write, I can know how to speak. Those are the fundamentals. But I'm coming to you today in order really to go into a debate about the complements, the accelerators, the enablers. That's what we are talking about today. I have another 2 points just to highlight before leaving, let's say, the argument or the floor to my colleagues. Let me take, let's say, something that will bridge maybe our understanding between technology and other fundamentals. You know that students, children in general, they need to learn social and emotional skills, which is usually nothing to do with technology. However, the new research, especially from World Economic Forum, shows that digital economy transformed the workplace. And as part of this transformation that we are talking about, those fundamental principles and skills are critical, are core to the adaptability of how they really need to leverage the digital divides. Let me give some concrete examples here.
Dr.
In order
Puri,
really
you
to
have
show-
1 minute. You have
Yes.
1 minute.
I will take existing technology like sandbox gaming, Minecraft, for example, and how they can boost skills for collaboration, creativity, problem solving, leading edge technology like wearable technology, apps, virtual reality, and others. Those are really can be used in order really to take students from the classroom toward a virtual tours to Paris, to Malawi, to South Africa, and still they are inside of their room.
Dr. Khoury,
Let
I
them-
must ask you to conclude.
Let them benefit, let the student benefit from such kind of opportunity. And to end with this, remember that what we are talking about is creating an economy, a new economy of $8.5 billion this year, just around technology. So I'm also a contributor to the economic ecosystem that I'm having.
Thank you. Anthony, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would be the first to admit that I know very little about education. I had an education, my children had an education, but I am not an educator. I am humbled by the work that you do as educators. My honorable friend has attempted to bamboozle you with large amounts of jargon and statistics, like Minecraft, the fourth industrial age, and to impress you with the fact that just for this occasion he pulled out some paper. But I am a simple man, and I have a simple story to tell you. You may well have heard this story before, but not quite in this variant. Once long ago in a faraway galaxy, now that's another story. Once long ago, there was an emperor, and the emperor was a very vain man. He lived in a spectacular castle, and he was obsessed with beautiful clothes. He was so obsessed with beautiful clothes that all the wealth of his empire came to support his beautiful wardrobe of clothes. And one day he got word that two of the finest tailors in the whole world were coming to his empire. Let's call them Mr. Gates and Mr. Jobs. And these gentlemen arrived at the castle. They knocked on the door and said, "We have some beautiful clothes to show the emperor. They're the finest clothes you can ever imagine. They're silky, they're glowing, they're soft. You might even say they're Microsoft." The emperor said, "That sounds very appealing. Come in." And in they came. They measured him up. They promised to make him the finest clothes he could ever imagine. And it took them weeks and millions of dollars. And then they came back and said, "I'm sorry, we've got to upgrade these clothes to version 2.0 XP. And then they came back again and said, "You need some peripherals." And it went on and on for months and months and months. And finally, the project was complete, and the emperor stood in front of the mirror, and he looked at all of his magnificence in the clothes crafted for him by Messrs. Jobs and Messrs. Gates. And it was wonderful. He said, "I must show my people." So he went out onto the balcony. The entire population were gathered before him, and he stood there, completely naked. Ladies and gentlemen, are we not naked on the altar of all of this technology? Billions and billions of dollars spent on electronic whiteboards and tablets and software. It's all rubbish. It just lines the pockets of technology companies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me give you two examples. Number one, Michael Gove, who spoke in this very chamber. He did something that I endorsed. In fact, I beat him up about this a few years ago. I said, "Michael, we have to teach children coding in schools." He said, "Anthony, I agree with you." Thank you, Michael. So it went into the core curriculum. You know what? They're using the same program to teach coding in school that my daughter learned when she was the same age in primary school. She's 28 and pregnant with her own child now. That's 20 years on, the same software. Whoever owns the license for that software is making a lot of money. Let me give you another data point. In this very room last year, we had a whole bunch of EdTech presentations. And there was a teacher there who stood up and talked about digital whiteboards, the biggest con of all time. What's wrong with the chalkboard? Educators are talented. They can use a piece of chalk, maybe even a whiteboard and a felt pen. Hell, that's innovation. Why do we need all this digital stuff? Didn't add any value, costs a load of money, and as my friend has said, deflected resources from the things that really matter, which is investment in teachers. Why not take all that tech money and spend it on you? More of you, more training for you, more money for you. And crucially, most of all, more of you. Between a digital whiteboard and a teacher, I know what I'd choose every time. And in closing, ladies and gentlemen, as I stand here before you, naked. Thank God we're doing it in Dubai and not London. Naked on the altar of technology, I would say to you this. It's not that technology can't make a difference. It's just that today, it's all a bit of a sideshow. And why don't we spend the money on what really matters, spend it on the kids, spend it on the teachers, and wait till the technology gets to where it needs to be, and we'll all have a much better world. Ladies and gentlemen, I urge you, in the interests of teachers, in the interests of children, and in the interests of not lining the pockets of big technology companies, support the motion. Thank you very much.
And now I request young Munira to come in and follow that.
Wow. Is this working? All right. Okay, hello everybody. So obviously it's such an honor to be here. You may have already noticed that I look a little bit different from the rest of our speakers today, a bit younger. So I am actually still a student. So let me give you a bit of a background on who I am, why I'm here, and why I am relevant to this conversation. So I'm an 18-year-old student. I'm currently studying at GEMS Wellington Academy. And I am a part of 50 students in the world who are currently studying on a blended learning scholarship with something we call Pomoja. So what we do, essentially, how we study is through our computers. We study online. So at the start of year 12, or the American grade 11, we were all put into a room and we were each given a MacBook. And that was, and we were put into this awesome room called the Blended Learning Plaza. The Blended Learning Plaza had polycoms, it had whiteboards, it had all this amazing technology. And for the past 2 years, this has been our school, and this has been the way we study. So in a way, we are kind of lab rats testing out the motion that we have today with us. So as you can imagine, putting my final years of high school in the hands of technology was a decision it was a big decision. It was a risky decision. And it was something that I chose, my parents chose, and my school chose, not just because of the free MacBook, although that was also pretty awesome, but mainly because we all believe that technology is undoubtedly the future of the classroom. Let me tell you why. So in preparation for this debate, I did a little bit of a survey. In my school, apart from the 50 of us who study using technology more or less all the time, there are 120 students who do the exact same IB diploma course without technology in a traditional classroom setting with teachers and whiteboards and all of that. So I sent out a survey to both these samples of people, and I asked them both 2 questions. And I didn't expect much, I was just seeing what I could get, but the results were striking. The first question I asked them was what their predicted grade for the end of school was. For the group that uses technology, our Pomoja group, the answer was the average predicted grade was 37 out of 45 IB points. That's around 83%. For those that studied using traditional methods, they had 34 out of 45 IB points. That's around 70-something%. So that's 3 whole grades lower, and while that in itself is awesome, that was not what was most striking. The second question that I asked them was how many times a week they spent studying, in school, outside of school, just their combined study time towards their academic work. The ones who used technology studied for 18 hours a week. The ones who did not use technology, who studied in traditional classrooms, studied for 55 hours a week. That's a 37-hour difference. And still, the ones who use technology were getting better scores. Why? The simple answer to this question is flexibility. Technology affords students something that studying in a typical classroom can never give them. Every student is different, just like every human being. Some are great at math, some are great at science, some are great at art. What our traditional classroom setting does is that it takes the math genius, the guy who can get a mathematical concept in 3 or 4 minutes, and puts him in the same room, teaches him with the same methods as someone who may not be as good at math, but might just be a genius in art. What technology does is it gives the education in the hands of the student. It allows them to choose what they want to study, when they want to study it, what they want to focus on, what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, and consequently, it saves time. And what can this time be invested in? This time can be invested in them getting to know themselves, them getting to understand their own weaknesses and strengths and passions outside of the curriculum, and it can help them become more holistic and rounded individuals. You probably won't believe this, but out of our school, although the 50 of us make up around 30% of the whole cohort, we represented 2/3 of the school student council last year. And last year, out of the top 3 highest scoring students in our school, all 3 of them were from the 50 of us. That is the power of technology in the classroom. So like I've mentioned to you, I have 2 classrooms. One is within the school, this amazing, huge building, GEMS Wellington Academy. You might have seen it if you were driving down Silicon Oasis. And the other is inside my laptop. Guess which one educates more students? The one that's inside my laptop. My Pamoja classes, let me give you the example of psychology, have up to around 300 students with around 10 to 15 teachers. And all of us are studying this and getting amazing grades from this computer. The reason for this is that teachers do not have to constantly waste time writing on whiteboards the same information again and again. They can simply share the same video. They can simply share the same podcast. They can simply reuse lesson scripts. Technology saves money. It saves money because you do not need as many teachers per student. And despite using lesser teachers, you give students the same quality of education. Right now, our priority with the number of students who are going uneducated in the world is to educate as many people as possible. The second speaker of our opponent, he mentioned the wonderful clothes story. But I think that if we do not take technology into our classrooms, if we do not take these awesome devices, these awesome clothes that are being made every day, and make them relevant to our students, make them relevant to the youth, then truly we will stay naked. There is no use of innovation without putting it in the hands of the youth, without allowing the youth to utilize it to better their own future and the future of the world. Currently, the BBC estimates that 2 billion students in Syria since the beginning of the war, have dropped out of school. These students are in refugee camps without access to teachers, without access to classrooms. For students like this, technology
Munira, I'm sorry you have to close soon.
For them, technology does not only have potential in the classroom, but it has potential in being their classroom. Imagine one MacBook in a refugee camp. Imagine how many people that could educate in itself. Thank you.
I know I'm not meant to clap. But, you know, she's a GEM student. I have to. I'm proud. Well, now we will open it to the floor, to the members of the House, to ask our learned speakers some questions. And let me remind you, if it becomes a speech, my gavel will come down. So if we can get some questions from the floor, I'm sure there is a mic out there somewhere. There's a gentleman with a mic. There is a lady standing right next to you, to your left. Yes? Question, please, ma'am.
I'm Victoria Sorraquin from Argentina. My question is for this group. If they would stay 8 hours without technology every day from Monday to Friday.
This is for the group, and you're saying, would they? Could you stay?
I ask again. My question is, if you could stay, you two could stay without using technology from Monday to Friday, 8 hours a day.
Actually, it is my practice to not use technology for 8 hours a day, 1 day a week. This is serious now. This is not the Emperor's New Clothes stuff. This is serious because I find it to be very refreshing mentally. And I find it quite distracting mentally. And my colleague made the very good point that young people today are used to this constant, always on, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever it is, Facebook, doing my IB on my incredibly expensive Apple device, which nobody in the third world could ever afford, right? Those things are really, really important
Sorry,
for
use
refreshing.
Microsoft, please, not that.
Or your Surface, if you really want to go that way. I've got a good story about the Surface, but I won't tell it here. So yeah, I mean, I think we all ought to have 8 hours a day, 1 day a week without technology. I think the world would be a better place for it, frankly. Well, you only asked me about 1 day. Can't change your question.
Now, next year we must get you as a speaker, ma'am, because that was a follow-on. Next question. There's a gentleman here on the left. If you could also just let us, if you could let us know who you are and where you're from.
I'm coming from UCL Institute of Education. I'm just surprised that my friend said he doesn't, he goes without technology, but you just use microphone, the mic to speak. You are wearing watch, and then you say you don't use technology. That is not right. Education is said to prepare us for life and including work. Work and life gradually is becoming technological.
You can see my gavel.
I'm going to ask the question now.
Down.
Question is coming now. If classrooms are not allowed to prepare students to use technology now, because according to you, they are a waste of time and money, when do you think classrooms will be ready to accommodate technology?
Please, James.
I think it's a great question. I would love it if every classroom in the world was like Manira's here. I would love it. That would be amazing. But how can we do that? Let's be practical. A lot of these conferences, we talk about pipe dreams. We go, education technologies, smart boards, they're excellent. We go back home and we go, let's implement smart boards in our classroom. Let's implement all these crazy tablets. Every student in their tablet has a tablet. But then we realize we have a finite budget. We have to be practical. In most countries in the world, $200 per student per year is not enough to integrate all of these wonderful things yet. $200 per student per year is not enough to train teachers. It's not enough to pay teachers. There are not enough teachers. Most classrooms in the world have 50 students in the class and one teacher who may not even have a relief teacher or substitute if they're sick. We don't have enough resources yet. It's not yet ready. Once we have enough teachers, they are fully trained. Once we've reformed our curriculum so it's focusing on the right thing as well, then maybe technology has its place. Also, once the cost has dropped. I know Microsoft do some great things with educators, and they provide free services, but not all education technology is free. And let's be clear, we're talking about education technology here, right? A projector in a room is not education technology. A table is technology, but it's not education technology. A projector is not education technology. We're talking specifically here about education technology.
Let me go to that side of the room. Gentleman with his hand up there in the blue jacket. And then there's a lady over there. We'll start with you, sir, and then there's one.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sagar. I just wanted to pitch in with the teacher's perspective. So I wish 2 of my students were here. We are seeing it, student pitching for technology. 2 of my students actually went to the VC funded. Where I come from, a new institute was put up, and they were actually handing over the free pad with all the inbuilt material. So after like 8 months, those 2 kids came back with their experiences, and some kids also who had taken up the Khan Academy course, they came back with their experiences. So I wish if those 2 students were there, because they wanted some things, as the speaker here this side emphasized, some things need to happen before we can be looking for the technology. So I just wish to counter some points from personal experiences, those 2 could have said what actually they are looking for, not the pitch from the
Did the children come back and ask a question?
They came back to the traditional, that they don't want that. They don't want that to happen. So that's what I wanted to share from a teacher's perspective.
So no question?
No question.
Oh, you tricked me. My gavel was about to come down. Tricked me. But it's okay. Thank you. It was appreciated. There's a lady over that side with the hand up just towards the back there.
Hi there. My question is to this side of the room. If technology is the solution in the hands of youth, why has the one laptop per child program failed in every continent in the world?
Ooh, good question.
Again, we're talking here about the device. The debate never been about the device. It was about people. Always, it's about people. Today, what we came with is about people. Munira is illustrating students that they do have a learning experience. So I'm not here cutting budget for devices. I'm not here arguing about wiring a classroom. This is not what is the debate about. This is about providing the right ecosystem and environment for Munira and like Munira to really excel. It's about also the teachers in order really to teach someone to let them learn how they can really be graping the job of the future. My colleague here is heading blockchain. He will not find any talents in 20 years unless the teachers know how to use the technology and students how to really maximize their really opportunity about this. It's not about the device.
Okay, I'm going to keep going either side. I think the lady at the front here I believe, was first. Apologies, ma'am. I think we've got about four more minutes of question and answer. So question, please.
I will ask 2 questions to make up for his non-question. I was a non-traditional student in my university, which means I was the oldest student in the university. When I went to sign up for a calculus class, I had a delightful professor who said to me, Deborah, I'm a principal at a school now, by the way, you might want to take a class with another professor because I use the graphing calculator a lot, and you're going to need a new class to teach you about the graphing calculator. So I went with a professor who would not allow their students to use the graphing calculator because he wanted to teach them the foundation. So my question to you is there not a more financially responsible way to build a foundation for children without the huge budget amount that comes with some of the technology? And my question for this side is, are we not putting students in that situation where they're missing pieces and it makes it more difficult for them to succeed?
Good questions. Start with the first one, if you guys want to answer, and then address the second one.
All right, so just to talk about just to refer back to your answer about the $200 per classroom, I just thought of this, the UNICEF Uganda in 2014, they developed an awesome device called a Mobi Station. It's like a portable suitcase which has a low power projector. It does not need any kind of input from anything. It uses solar power and it can be used in any kind of environment to educate up to 100 people. That itself, those kind of developments in technology are itself very good solutions, very cost-effective solutions to teaching people how to use technology. And when it comes to using stuff like graphic calculators, having a teacher illustrate it to you in the class is time-consuming. Like you said, you need a whole another class for it. But now you have all these free portals like YouTube, Vimeo, where you can learn all this just for free. We already have it out there. There are already cost-effective ways to teach these foundations to students. What we need is an efficient way to get it out to them. And I think using technology in classrooms, even having one iPad per class, where a student can just go and try out a calculator or watch a video, is enough. And it's the first step forward to helping us become truly digitally enabled citizens of the future.
And
Despite what they tell you, it's still better to spend every pound, dollar, euro, dirham on teachers, their salaries, the number of teachers, and their training than it is to buy more kit in the classroom. But I will say, to your point, it's a very good point. One of the things that worries me a lot today is if you go down to where we live in London, there's a sort of farmer's market every weekend, you go down there and you buy 3 items from the person on the stall, what do? They whip out their iPhone and they add it up on the iPhone. They can't do mental math anymore. And all of this technology is robbing our children of the basic skills that you refer to so passionately. We're in effect nurturing them intellectually by not giving them the basics. And how can that be right? Spend the money on the teachers, that's what I say.
Yeah. So I'm afraid I cannot take any more questions. We now have an opportunity for each side to summarize. So from your side, James, Anthony, who will be summarizing? You will have 3 minutes, and then Dr. Zaki, will you be summarizing? Okay. So James, please, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this debate is not about whether education technology could be great. It can be. It is. It's not about whether it can be great everywhere. There are technologies today that they're talking about using that are amazing. At home, they're very powerful. Kids learn on their own at home all the time. Maybe the classroom isn't the place to necessarily have a 40-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 50-year-old teacher teach a 10-year-old how to use technology. I feel embarrassed these days. I grew up with technology, yet 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds teach me how to use it. Apple, Microsoft, all these organizations are developing amazing, amazing technologies that people can learn themselves. It's advancing too fast. Is classrooms the right place? And with our finite budgets, we must spend on the things that are still not ready today. Teachers, their training, the new curriculum, character, attitude, skill development. We can't predict the jobs of the future. So getting people to learn education through education technologies today, smart boards, it may be a waste of money, just like those millions of tablets were in Thailand in 2013. Let's keep spending on the teachers, on the new curriculum, on basic facilities. And until then, maybe we'll have to wait until education technology can enter the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Zaki.
First of all, I stand in front of you not naked. Because I know for a fact that we are not talking here about technology education. We are talking today about technology and education. I see them as one. We cannot afford to cut one from the other in the era where we are talking about digital revolution and the fourth industrial revolution. The second point that I would like everyone to remember is that you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility because what we are doing today is really impacting not only the individuals and the community of tomorrow, but also the whole workforce, the whole economy, and what impact it can really bring here in terms of productivity. The third point that I would like to mention is that it's never perfect. It will never be perfect. Always, every single shift in paradigm, there are always some, I would say, gaps, there are mistakes, and there are lessons that we can learn. But if we really do mistakes, let's do them quickly and fail quickly, because we would like really to run and accelerate our investment here in the teachers, in the technology, in the classroom, for our students. Thank you.
I would like to thank our speakers for their passion and misdirection. And we now have the opportunity to vote once again. As you remember, A is if you vote for the motion, B is if you vote against the motion, and C is if you're undecided. You will have 10 seconds, or 15 seconds. I thought I could vote. I believe it's a motion for the swing. I have to say, there was a swing. The motion has been carried by the 4s. Well done. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your contribution. Enjoy your next session.